All right, hi everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And today we are talking about a stock that I've talked about on the channel before. Now, this is backed by popular demand. I've had a lot of comments lately asking me for another video on Tonix Pharmaceuticals. So, we've also seen some interesting price action and some news that is actually right here. We're going to talk about this news that just came out for the stock. But if you're new around here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like content that is all about the stock market. We talk about OTC stocks, cryptocurrencies. We talk about all types of opportunities out there in the markets, specifically regarding small caps and, the lower market capitalization type plays, because these types of plays can result in large moves. BioTech stocks are notorious for high risk, high reward. So that's the first thing you should understand about these types of stocks. When we're talking about a stock like TNXP, Tonix Pharmaceuticals, keep in mind that this stock did a 10x briefly in December, and all of the hype is surrounding their TNX 102SL fibromyalgia drug, which they're working on right now, and they're working on getting approved by the FDA. Now, if you look over the last year, what you're going to see here is a very bad chart. And you might see that chart and be scared away, and I completely understand if that's the case. Because when you're looking at a share price of $1,000 back around 1 year ago, March 25th, in fact, pretty much 1 year ago exactly to the day, $1,000. Keep in mind, they've done a lot of reverse splits. So when you're seeing a share price that is literally 3% of what it was, it's down 97% in the last year. Keep in mind that there's been a lot of speculation regarding this stock, and there's been people calling it a scam due to the fact that they've done these reverse splits. Now, reverse splits are when, if you're unfamiliar with those, what happens is they basically will split the stock, say, 1 for 100. In fact, the most recent reverse stock split was 1 for 100. Now, you'll see the share price here at $30 a share. The equivalent of that was 30 cents a share. The reason they do that, though, is because they have to do these reverse splits is to maintain a listing on the NASDAQ. Because when they do a 1 for 100 reverse split, let's say you own 10,000 shares at 30 cents a share. Your 10,000 shares divided by 100 now becomes 100 shares, and the share price goes from 30 cents to $30 a share. Now, nothing really changes in terms of the actual ownership stake of the company, technically, when a reverse split happens, but they are viewed very negatively. And so when this reverse split news came out, you can see the stock was kind of floating around between the pre-split equivalent of 20 to 40 cents a share, and immediately after that news came out, the stock crashes down to 15 cents a share, right? That was the equivalent, I guess you could say. In fact, this chart, this is probably right when the reverse split went through, I'm assuming. It was pretty weird on the chart there. But you get my point, right? So the pre-split equivalent was 20 to 40 cents a share. Now, since then, right, we're starting to trend back up. So, after the 1 for 100 reverse split, we were trending at about $15 a share, which would have been the equivalent of 15 cents. Now, when we started talking about this stock on the channel, it was actually trading under the equivalent of $20 a share currently, or 20 cents before the split. So this thing went from under 20 cents a share all the way to almost $2 a share within just a couple trading days. So keep that in mind. And the reason it went up that much is because there was all this hype surrounding the news coming out about their Tonix 102SL drug. And when that news finally dropped, what happened was it was a sell the news event, which basically means all the hype was building up, and then when the news actually dropped, the stock dropped. Okay, so that does happen. You have to watch out for that with those sell the news events, because when you have a sell the news event, you can see the parabolic move, which did happen. In fact, if we go over, just go over, like, let's say the 6-month time frame. Okay, yeah, you see, so this chart's not the best because of the split that happened. But let's just say over the last month, we're up 247%. So we're trending back upwards. The negative sentiment that we saw after the stock had 10x in December, it crashed basically to the levels it was trading at, under 20 cents, or the equivalent of, in this case, $20 a share after the split. But really, it got under that and went down to like 15 cents, or $15 was the post-split equivalent. And so now we've basically doubled from those levels. And so you could say that the sentiment is, in fact, improving. Now, what is causing this to improve? Why is the stock going up? And real quick, here's a chart on TradingView. You can see that the pre-split equivalent of basically this right here on December, right before Christmas, when this thing went parabolic, it basically 10x and then crashed big time. If you look at, here's one more chart on FinViz, you can see that we are kind of trending back up here, even though it has been a rough ride. over here, you can see the 10X real quick, came back down, and here we are once again starting to try to climb back up from where we were. Now let's get into the actual news that caused this stock to move up, okay? So Tonix Pharmaceuticals announces that FDA will not require an advisory committee meeting to discuss new drug application for TNX 102SL for the management of fibromyalgia. Now the first thing I get out of this is that it's going to be sped up. And so basically we're looking at a sped up application process, most likely, just from the headline, but let's get into it. So we're on track for August 15th, 2025. That was the original news that came out for the FDA goal date, basically to decide if this is going to be able to be marketed and approved out there for the public. TNX 102SL is a non-opioid analgesic. If approved, TNX 102SL would become the first new drug for treating fibromyalgia in more than 15 years. And so that's what kind of sets this company apart as well when they're talking about what they have in the pipeline coming. So commercial planning for TNX 102SL is underway for launch in the fourth quarter of 2025. Tonix Pharmaceuticals is a fully integrated biopharmaceutical company with marketed products and a pipeline of development candidates. Today announced that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration will not require an advisory committee meeting to discuss the company's new drug application for TNX 102SL for the management of fibromyalgia. If approved, TNX 102SL would be the first new option treatment for patients in 15 years. We are pleased that FDA will not require an advisory committee meeting as part of the regulatory review process for 102SL, said Seth Lederman, MD, President and Chief Executive Officer of Tonix Pharmaceuticals. We believe that TNX 102SL has the potential to be the first member of a new class of medicines for the management of fibromyalgia, a debilitating condition affecting over 10 million U.S. adults. We believe we are well positioned to launch TNX 102SL for the management of fibromyalgia in the fourth quarter of 2025, if approved by the FDA. So what I would say at this point is don't be surprised if this stock floats around for a while, because we still have time potentially for this to be approved. August 15th is the goal date, but we don't know exactly the time frame. But it does look, according to this news, that it will be sped up because they are not going to require an advisory committee meeting, which is basically more bureaucracy, more paperwork, more, just a longer process. And so that's, I think, why the stock is going up, is due to the fact that there's not going to be this advisory committee meeting. And so we can expect something in the fourth quarter of 2024. 2025. So it previously granted fast track designation to 102SL for the management of fibromyalgia in 2024. So that was the big news that came out in December. That's when it went parabolic and then crashed. It was a sell the news event. Then we got the news of the reverse split, and now we're here, right? So at this point, we have this designation which is intended to expedite the FDA review of important new drugs for serious conditions to fill an unmet medical need. Now, we do have that fast track designation, and then we get this news as well. So combined with all that, we've basically doubled from where the share price was after the split, when all that negative sentiment was going on. Up 90% in the last 5 days on this news as well, so looking pretty good there, from 15 to $30 a share. So like I said, don't be surprised if this floats around for a while, though, following this news, because we still have a while until the actual approval will come out. The fourth quarter of 2025. We're still in, I guess, technically the first quarter. A few days left in the first quarter of 2025. So just remember that when we're looking at the news that will be coming out here in the coming months and as we get closer to the goal date and everything else. Now, currently, as you can see, according to the share structure, the market cap is $148 million. So also keep that in mind. Now, I kind of typed in just a random question, and this AI overview popped up. Can biotech stocks go parabolic into the billions of market cap? And of course, Google, being the amazing AI that it is, responded with, yes, biotech stocks are known for their volatility and can experience parabolic or rapid unsustainable growth, potentially reaching billions in market capitalization, driven by factors like promising clinical trials or drug approvals, which is what we're going for here. The official approval to market and sell TNX 102SL, which is the first fibromyalgia drug in over 15 years, which sets TNXP apart. So, parabolic growth in biotech. Biotech stocks are highly susceptible to rapid price swings due to the high-risk, high-reward nature of drug development and the potential for blockbuster drugs. Could this be a blockbuster drug if it's approved? I think so, to emerge. So factors driving parabolic growth. You have the drug approvals, the second one. That's what we're going for here. But you also have clinical trials, which we've already been through with this drug, and then market expectations, of course. So you have basically the sentiment, if they're overly optimistic, if investors are driving the price up. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, essentially, driving the stock price up, even if the news doesn't come out, right? You might have a sell the news event like we saw in December. So anyway, here's some, you can look at some biotech stocks that, anyway, it mentions other stuff there, but I found that interesting. But yeah, just keep in mind we're already at, it looks like $150 million market cap. So in order to get a 10x out of this stock, say the news comes out later this year and we go from $150 million market cap roughly to $1.5 billion or $2 billion, that would in fact imply about a 10x in the stock price. So we would be looking pretty good there. But, how long does that take, right? Does that take 6 months? Do we have to wait till the fourth quarter for that approval? And then what happens when the news actually comes out? Will it be a sell the news event? These are all things to consider when you're trading these stocks because this is high risk, high reward stuff. This is not like your dividend stocks where you're going to be moving maybe a couple percent a week or whatever, depending on the market, and you're going to be getting those consistent cash flows. I have actually a separate YouTube channel if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff. I'll leave it below. But this is all about high growth, high risk, high reward. This is probably as high up the risk curve as you can get. So always keep that in mind. And yes, there's going to be people in the comments calling this stock a scam. I personally believe they have a real product. They've had to make some choices in order to keep their stock on the NASDAQ. That's just the nature of the game when you're dealing with this type of stuff because the NASDAQ has minimum bid requirements and you have to maintain at least $1 per share. But right now, we are well beyond that, especially after the reverse split we've been maintaining and in fact going up from after the reverse split happened. But it all has to do with this news, which we just talked about. So this is the AI overview. Actually, I kind of like this website, Stock Titan. It's a good website to kind of give summaries. So it has the positive and negatives. Let's go over this based upon the news. So they're not going to require an advisory committee meeting, which will streamline the approval process, as we talked about. Fast track designation was received in 2024. And as you can see here, we have the expedited regulatory review. Large market opportunity with 10 million plus U.S. adults which are affected by fibromyalgia, and with the first potential new fibromyalgia treatment in 15 plus years, that sets TNXP apart in my opinion. Now, some of the negatives, it could be that final FDA approval is still pending and not guaranteed, and as we discussed also, commercial launch could be delayed or is most likely going to be delayed based upon the FDA decision until Q4 of 2025. So these are all part of the considerations as you are thinking about buying this stock or if you're trading this stock or whatever you're thinking about doing. Remember, we're already double where we were just basically last week, so we're up a lot. The last 5 days up 90%. Last month we're up 247%. Last 6 months even we're up 134%. Now, year to date, down. 1 year chart looks absolutely horrendous, but remember, we had a lot of reverse splits, so that's why we're seeing $1,000 per share here, and we're only at 3% of that value. It's just the nature of the game. People do not like reverse splits. It unfortunately is part of the process, especially when you're on the NASDAQ and you're trying to maintain a listing, especially when you have a potentially very valuable drug, right? But if we're thinking about where we're at right now, roughly $150 million market cap with the current share structure, and that was according to otcmarkets.com. You can go there and check out any stock, the share structure, when it was last updated, and also the shares outstanding and everything. I like that website. It's good for getting certain data on stocks and whatnot. So this one right here, this is an article that came out just to finish off March 24th, 2025. This came out actually today. Why is TNXP stock rising? Well, let's find out. So, the company announced that the FDA will not require an advisory committee meeting for its new drug application for TNX-102SL, a potential new treatment for fibromyalgia. And CEO Seth Lederman expressed confidence in the drug's potential to introduce a new class of fibromyalgia treatments. The company anticipates a possible launch in Q4 2025. And there it is, guys. So, there's the news. Here we are. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think this stock's a scam? Do you think this actually has potential? Do you think we can recover? I mean, there's multiple gaps. We've talked about this stock on the channel before multiple times, and there's a lot of gaps on this chart, guys. There's a lot of gaps. And so, yes, we would be pushing back over $1 billion market cap if that were to happen. But there's a lot of gaps in the chart due to the vicious nature of this stock going down. So we'll see what happens, especially as the year progresses and as we get closer to that goal date. Can TNXP be that unicorn biotech stock. Can we see a remarkable recovery in the share price? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And we will see you guys in the next one. Take care.